Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Masu's Hacks. Today we're gonna be solving a challenge from the HackTheBox platform. So we are ready on the dashboard and then our IP is ready for use. So today's machine is titled Late. So that's the name of the box and it's a retired box. Okay, so on HackTheBox we have active and then retired machines. So this machine was retired, I think last week or last 2 weeks. So we have the chance to show a walkthrough of it. Okay, we can copy the IP. If you click on the IP to copy it to clipboard, and then we can go and start our challenge from the terminal. So what I will do first is I'll add the IP to my host file. I have already set up my terminal and all my VPN connections are established to the HackTheBox network. So everything is ready. What I'll do now is to add my IP to the host file. So I'll just echo the IP and then I'll call it late.8db, 8TB for HackTheBox, and then I'll append it to the bottom of my host file. Now we can try to ping it. Let's ping late and see if we get some responses. So we're good to go. We get responses from the later box. All right, so the first window is my VPN connection. I can switch to it for you to see. So VPN is already established. And then my other pane, this is where I'll be doing my nmap scan. So let me start the nmap. Okay, so nmap. So the nmap is scanning and then it's complete. You can see that we have only 2 ports open here. We have SSH on port 22, running the open SSH version 7.6p1 on Ubuntu, and then we also have port 80 running HTTP on Nginx. Alright, so what we have to do here is we can go and check what we have on the server. So for port 80 we can go to HTTP and see what we have hosted on the Nginx server. We have late.8TB. Okay, so this is what we can see. Is the title is Late Best Online Image Tools. So you get the best online image tools here. We just try to navigate around the site and see what features it has. So popular features of online photo editor. Online image editor is the easiest, so this you can have a read of it if you have enough time. What photo editing is, and then going around we can see we have a link here. So if we click this one, we have a hyperlink, so let's click it to see. So if we click this, we are having trouble finding this site. So actually let's go back and then we try to open it on a new tab. So if you click it, you see that it goes to another site. Okay, so the site that we were at initially was late.8tb, but that link actually takes us to images.late.htb. all right, so this is kind of a virtual host or a subdomain. Okay, so it's a virtual host, so it's not able to resolve this host name into an IP address. That's why we not be able to open the site. So what we do is to add this particular host also to our host file. Okay, so let me create another window, and then I'll call this one miscellaneous, and then we can echo so what is the IP? Let's look back, and then we copy our IP again back here, and we append it to, let's say, hosts. Okay, I can spell echo. This is wrong. So echo. Yes, so we've been able to add the other subdomain to our host file. So we should now be able to open it. You can try it from the browser. If we curl, you can see that we have some feedback from the web server. Okay, and then when you go back to refresh, yes, so now we have the page open. Okay, so virtual hosting is just a way of hosting multiple sites on the same IP address. Okay, so let's see what we have here. So convert image to text with Flask. Okay, so Flask is a lightweight Python framework, just like Django, but this one is Flask is lightweight compared to Django. So the web developers know what I'm talking about. All right, so they use Flask to make it possible to convert image to text. So if you have an image, maybe in JPEG or PNG that has text, you'll be able to extract the text from the image with this particular application. So that is what it does. We can give it a try. Okay, we can give it a try. Try to make some images and see if we can convert, or if you can get text out of those images. So I'm gonna start mousepad. It's like a text editor. So I'll try to create some text. This is a new challenge from HackTheBox. All right, so this is the text we have here. We are going to have an image of the text, and then we can we can try to convert it from the image to text. So this is my screen capture tool. You can use the default snipping tool or screen capture tool from Kali, but I use Faststone. This one I installed it personally. So I'm going to use Faststone to capture, to save this image, this as image. So I will save it. Okay, so this is a new challenge. So now this is an image. Okay, if I save it, it's going to appear as an image. Where do I save this? Let's go to Alt, Share, HackTheBox, Linux, and then late. Okay, so this is late, the machine that we are working on. I will just name it as test1. So this is the first image that we are going to test. So the image is saved. All right, if we come back here, we can open the image. Well, let's open the image UG test1.png. Okay, so we can see that we have the image having our text. What we do now is trying to use the application, the web app, to convert our image to text. So we can browse, and then we upload. We browse for the file, and then we scan. So if we scan, we can get the results here. All right. If we open the results, you see this is a new challenge from HackTheBox. So the app was able to convert our image, the text in the image, into actual text. Okay, this PP is just like a paragraph. So if it's going to display it on the website, you see it as a paragraph. So the app works. Okay, so if you see something like this, as a penetration tester, a hacker, bug bounty, all right, what should come to your mind first is whether you can inject some code. Okay, and mostly if you hear about flask, then what should come to your mind is SSTI, that is server-side template injection. So we can try some server-side template injection payloads. Okay, so we'll just try a simple payload for now, which we'll try to inject let's say maybe an operation 4 times 6 or 7. Okay, 4 times 5. Let's use 4 times 5. If our application is able to resolve this one, then it means it's vulnerable to SSTI, which is server-side template injection. So here I'll just say my football age is. So if it resolved this one, it should resolve it as 20. 4 times 5 should be 20. It's 20 years. So my football age is 20 years. So if it resolved this to 20, it means the application is vulnerable. But if it doesn't resolve it and just show us this 2 curly brackets and then the operation inside, followed by the years, it means the application is not. So our interest is this part. If the application, the result gives us 20 over here, then our application is vulnerable to server-side template injection. All right, so we take another snapshot here, and we save this as test2. Okay, now we come back and we browse for test2, and we scan, and then we have the results. Let's open the results. Voila. So looking at the result, we have my football age is 20 years. Okay, that was not what was in the text. So if we try test2, this is what we had. My football age is this, but it was able to resolve it as 20. So the application is vulnerable to server-side template injection. Okay, so that's good for us. What we have to do now is to look for ways we can exploit it further. Okay, what information can we get since the application is vulnerable? We want to dig into the server and then gain enough information from the server since it can interpret some of our commands. Okay, then what we have to do is to go to payload of all turns. So payload of all turns, it has some very good payloads for several web application testing. We have IDOL, XSS. So what we are interested in is server-side template injection. So we can go to server-side template injection and look at the available payloads we can use. Because our application is a flask, we have to look for Ginger. So Ginger 2. Let's see where we can get Ginger. This is Groovy. We have Jade, Java, and Ginger. Okay, so Flask always go with Ginger. So these are the Ginger payloads. So this is a basic injection. We have a template format. We are looking for a payload that can help us to read remote files. So we want to read a file from the remote server. Okay, so we can try some of these payloads to see if they can give us information from the server. All right, so we can try this first one, second one, or the third one. So I would like to try the third one to see if it works. Okay, so now I'll paste this. So what this particular payload does is it tries to read the HC password from the server. So you get the users. It should be able to give us the users on that particular machine. Okay, so we can take another snapshot and save it as test3. Okay, we have test3 here. Then we go back to the application email reader. We browse for test3 and we scan. Okay, so we are having an error. It's not being, it couldn't give us the result this time around because it couldn't interpret all the commands that it was thrown with. So here, function object has no attributes underscore globals. Okay, so when we go back to the payload, if we go back to the payload, this is the payload that we used. The issue is the application is seeing a single underscore, but we have double underscore here. So this is underscore global, but it's seeing it as a continuous underscore, making it single. So it's not able to interpret it. Okay, so the engine, the Flask engine, could not interpret this single underscore when it was expecting double underscore. So what I think here is that you see that we have double underscore. It's not a single underscore, but it looks continuous, and I guess it's because of the font. That's why we're seeing it this way. So if we could change to a font that will be able to separate this one a bit before we take the image, that should work. So we can go to view fonts and then have it. I think hack regular. If you use hack regular font, this should do the trick. All right. So with the hack regular font, we can see that now we have some kind of separation. We can see some kind of separation between the two underscores. So I presume if we take a new snapshot and upload again, it should be able to run our command. All right. Now we can save this one as test4, and then we try uploading again. Let's go back and browse to test4. All right, so now it worked. Okay, so it worked. Let's see what we had. Let's see what we had. Let's open it and see what we had. Okay, yeah, so we are able to get the content of the HC passwd. So this one has the usernames, so the users on the machine. All right, so what I will do now is I can save this one. I can save this. I have some users here I may be interested in later, so let's save as let's call it passwd. So I'll call it passwd.txt. So that's fine. Okay, so I have a list of users, but some of these users don't have login, they don't have a shell, so they are not of interest to us. We want only the users that have shell or can run or execute commands. Okay, so we can get those users by filtering them out of the whole passwd file. So we can grep. Okay, so let's grep bash from pass. Let's see. Okay, so the passwd, I think it wasn't saved at the place we wanted it to be saved. So let's save it again. I want to save it at onto my HackTheBox machines, Linux, and then the name of the machine is late. So passwd. So let's save it here. So now it's now saved properly. So if I try to grep bash and then passwd, so I'm looking for users who have bash shells. So we can see we have two users. So this one is the root user, and then we have an account, SVC account. So he also has a bash. So we have two users on the machine root, and then we have a service user for a service account. Mostly root we don't have enough, but service user we can try. You can try to access information about the service user, but for the root, unless you escalate privileges, you cannot do much with root. Okay, so let's since we have some information about the service user, we can let me create some notes. Sublime late notes.txt. So users, I have SVC ACC. Okay, so I have a single user now, assign root. So I have another user called SVC ACC. That's the service account. All right. So now that I know, I'll be able to read remote files instead of reading the content of the etc passwd. I may try to see if we have some private keys stored on in the home directory of the service accounts. You know, we can check that. So mostly the private keys are always stored in home, and then the username, that's svcaa, and then we have .ssh, and then id underscore rsa. So this is always where we get the private keys. All right, so we can go back to our command here, and now instead of reading the content of etc.wd, we can read the content of the private key, because if we are able to get hold of the private key, we can use it to authenticate ourselves onto the machine with SSH. All right, so that will be wonderful. Okay, so let's see if this particular user has SSH keys stored in his home directory. Let's save this one too, and we'll call this test 5. So this is test 5. Now we can go back and use the application again to upload. Let's upload test 5, and then we can see if the content of it has the private keys. Okay, good. So we are lucky. We are able to exfiltrate the private keys. All right, so this is going to be very useful to us. So I can save this one as id underscore RSA in my working directory. So we have this and id underscore RSA. I can clear this if I list. I think I didn't save it where I want to save it again. Not here, man. Okay, let's go back and save it at the right place. Share HackTheBox machines, Linux machine, and then delete. So this is where I want it saved. So we have it saved now. So if I list, we can see that we have the ID RSA. If I list it this way, we have the ID RSA. You can see the permissions here, but mostly private keys are supposed to have special permissions, so we can change the permission. If not, we cannot be able to use it to authenticate ourselves into the machine. So we change mode, and then it requires permission 600, and we say ID RSA. So now we should be good to go. We have our ID RSA key. All right, now I'll just create another window where we'll be doing all our SSHs. Okay, so I'll call this window SSH. If I list, we still see our ID RSA key here, and now we can try to SSH using the ID RSA. So you say SSH tag ID RSA, and then this is the user that we want to authenticate ourselves with, and then you follow it by the host name, which is late.8db. If everything is right, we should be able to get the initial foothold. Right, good. So we have the initial foothold. We have svcacc at late. All right, so we are in the machine now. If I check who am I, so this is the user account that we are using now. And then if I check ID to see the groups that I belong to, I'm still part of the SVCACC group. I don't belong to any special group to help me with any privilege escalation. So let's try sudo tag L. We cannot use sudo tag L here because we don't know the password of the service account, so it will not work here. We can also try to see if we have some set user IDs, so some suite bit sets. So that one we always use find, and then user root with permissions of 4000. Okay, and we pipe this one to dev null so that we skip the errors. So let's see, the service uses the set user ID. So if we look through, there's nothing interesting here, nothing special. So we don't have any set user IDs we can exploit for privilege escalation. All right, so let's navigate around the application or around the box. So if we list, we see that we have a folder called app, and then we have user.txt. So if we cut user.txt, we have our user flag. So that's done. But now we'll need to escalate privileges to get our root flag. So let's try to cd into the app folder and see what we have in there. If we list, we have a main.py, we have misc. So these are standard Python files to manage the application. Let's see what main.py contains. Let's it main.py. Let's see if we can get something interesting. We have app.secret key. There's a secret key. I don't think we can do much with this. Let's see. All right. So this is just a basic flask app doing basic things with Python. So I don't see anything interesting from this side. So we go back and what do we do? So what I do is mostly you can upload a link piece. You can use link piece to scan for vulnerabilities. So link piece, which is a Linux privilege escalation or some suit, we can use link piece. But in this case, I would like to use a PSPy to check the processes, the running processes. Okay, you can also just use SSLMPT to see what applications are running on what ports. So we have an interesting application here. We can try to see what it is, but there's nothing there. I think this is what is running the framework, the application actually. All right, so what I'll do is I would like to see the processes. Okay, so I'll want to use PSPy to check the processes here. So let me download PSPy. Let's go to PSPy GitHub. Let's download PSPy. Okay, we'll have it here, and we have the prepackaged binaries. I think we can download this particular binary. So let's copy the URL and we wget. All right. So we have the PSPy here, where you can see the permissions is not executable. All right, but that's fine. What I will do now is, this is on my local machine. How can I get it onto the remote machine so that we can use it to enumerate further the box? All right. So here I will try to create an HTTP server with Python. So I use Python 3 to create a server. So it's running now. Then I'll go back to my my application, my box, my remote machine, and what do? Over here, I would like to navigate into a directory that I'll have full access to run files. Mostly the temp directory or dev SHM will always give you read and write access. So I will cd into temp before I'll download this PSPy file. Okay, so over here, let's download it. So I'll wget. Let's see what was the IP address of our Tanzero. So this one, exit. So let's see. IP. So our Tanzero. So this is the IP address that we have to be using. So, and then a 7 on port 8000. So my server is 7 on port 8000. Then I have the file name, which is pspy64. All right, so I'm sure I'll be able to download it. Come on, let's clear this and ls. Okay, so if I ls, I can see, I think some people are also working on the machine, so they've already uploaded their own PSPy. So this is the one I uploaded. That's why it has given it .1. So we can use their PSPy 64. That's fine. Or if you want, we can navigate to dev SHM, and then we just do everything afresh. Let's see what we have in there. We don't have anything on dev SHM, so we can now download wget, let's see if we can have the command again back. All right, so this is fine. So if I ls, we can see that we have the ps pi 64 here, but it's not executable, so we have to change the mode to make it executable. So ps pi 64. So now if I check it, it should be executable now, and then we can run it. You can just run it, ps pi 64. Let me close this one to give us enough real estate. So ps pi 64 is running, so it's trying to enumerate all the services running on the remote machine. So this running services and processes are opaque to us. We couldn't have seen these services without the ps pi enumeration, so it's good. So we can start looking at interesting processes. So you see the process IDs and then the user IDs. So UID of 0 is root, so it means it's root which is running these processes. Let's see what we have. We can see, so over here we can see that some crons are running. So root scripts in the root folder, root scripts cron.sh. okay, and then it's changing the attributes over here, so it's making it appendable, and then we can see a particular file here, ssh alert.sh, on the user local sbin. So let's continue to monitor what the process are doing. Okay, so we can make this full screen so that we see it properly. So we're still watching what processes are running, but ssh alert.sh is a file which has caught my interest because they are changing its attribute to make it append only. So over here now they've changed it back to only append. It means you can only append to that file, you cannot write to it or overwrite whatever is in it. All right, and the interesting thing is that we have the root is what is doing this, and then we are copying the ssh alert was copied from the root script to the user bin. So from here we can try to access this particular root, the ssh alert on the root folder. We don't have access, we cannot have access because it's in the root folder, and we don't have the privilege. Okay, we don't have the privilege to access the root folder. We can try it. So if we try to see what is inside over here, so let's get back and we can try. So over here I will just create another SSH. So I think this one is okay. We know what we're going to look at. So here if we try to cut the content of the SSH alert in the root folder, we don't have permission. All right, so we cannot do anything about that. So we have to look at the one in the user local bin directory. So if we try to cut, or we can ls to just have a fair idea what is inside it. Okay, so we can see what we have in that is it's a bash script. Okay, it's a bash script, and then looking at it, it's trying to send an email because we have a recipient, we have subject, body. So it's trying to send an email with the subject email from server login alerts, and then this is the body. So it will send an email and then to capture these parameters and send it to maybe the admin that there was an SSH login attempt or something. So that's what it does. Okay, so we have to see because this particular script is runs with root access. Okay, so if we are able to inject our own code into it, it will run our code as well. After it finished running the code inside, it will run our code as well. And if we are crafty enough to put a reverse shell in, we should be able to get a reverse shell as root. So that should be able to give us the root access. All right. Now let's exit from. So if we list the file again, we can see the permissions that it has. So the SVC, it belongs to SVC user, and then SVC group. So SVC user and anybody in the SVC group should be able to read and execute this file. All right, but we can also check other attributes. We have LSATTR, and then we see. Okay, so if you check this particular attribute, we can see that we can only append. Okay, we can only append and execute. We cannot write or override the file. All right, so if you try to put information to override what is already in this particular file, it will not work. So what we can do is just to only append. All right, so we can now try to append our our reverse shell into this file, because this file is run by a cron. Okay, so whenever it's run and it runs our code, it will give us the the reverse shell as the root user. So that's how we're gonna escalate our privilege. So let's see what reverse shells we can get. I have some reverse shells already. So I have a script. So if I say shell gen, and then I just provide the port that I should put in the reverse shell, it should give me some reverse shells. So I can use any of these reverse shells, and then this is the port, and it will take the IP from the system, the #0 IP from the system. So everything is pre-done. So what I just need to do is to copy this. Okay, but this is something that I scripted. Okay, but if you don't know how to do this or how to use this shell gen application I wrote myself, you can just go to pen test monkey reverse shells. So you get a lot of reverse shells here you can work with. Okay, so mostly I use a netcat reverse shell. So this one never fails me. Most of the time it works for me, most of the time. So this particular reverse shell, we can try it. You just need to do a modification to it before we use it. All right, so I'll just need to modify it. So the IP, okay, so the IP here is going to be the IP of our local machine we wanted to reverse the shell to. Okay, so that's our #0 IP. So we can go and check that particular IP from here. We had it already. Let's see. So this particular IP, this is the IP we're gonna put here. and then the port you want to listen to. So the default port is 1234. You can listen to this port if you want, but mostly it depends on your convention or what you like to do. I always want to use 777. Okay, so if I use 777, and then that is it. That is the code we want to inject into the bash script so that it will run and give us a reverse shell as root. So now we have to go back to our SSH window, and now we are going to append. Okay, so to append we just do an echo, and then we will append the whole of this reverse shell to this file. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We are going to append this to the end of the ssh alert.sh file. So before we do that, we have to create a listener. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to create a listener down here. So I'll create a netcat listener. So nc lmvp 777. So I'm going to be listening for connection on port 777. All right, so if this listener is created, what we have to do now is to make sure that we attempt an SSH connection. All right, so if we append this particular reverse shell onto the SSH alert file, okay, if we append it, anytime an SSH connection is attempted, it will trigger this particular script. The script will run as root, and then we should be able to get a reverse shell as root. As simple as that, right? So what we have to do now is let me clear the screen here, and then I'll just attempt an SSH connection to the local host. Okay, so the local host is going to be 127.0.0.1. So I'll attempt an SSH connection to the local host. I haven't run it yet. So what I'll do first is to come and append the file to the. So the file is now appended. Okay, I can check it. So I can check tail. If I check the tail of it, I should be able to see. Okay. Okay, I think it has appended it to the very end of it. Let's okay, so I think that's appended it. Then we can run our SSH and see if we can get a remote connection. Okay, I think we have an issue here. We are not getting the callback. Let's go back and check what we're doing wrong. Let's go back and check. It seems it couldn't append it. That's what I think. So we are echoing this into user local Spain. Okay, so it's like we have a cron that does some cleanup. Okay, so I think we need to be fast. It always does cleanup, so it cleans up the system, cleans up all the changes we have done. So SSH localhost so we have to be fast. All right, so we go back, we add this reverse shell. We add this, we append this reverse shell, then we go back and then we run. We will run our SSH command, and then we see that we have the reverse connection as root. So if we come back to this window, we do ID, we can see that we are root. Who am I? Root. Okay, so that is it. We have been able to root this box. We can also try and look for the root flag. So let's see where we are. pwd, we are root, ls root. So we see the, let's clear. Okay, so we cannot clear, so I'll just say export term. Let's go to xterm. So now we can clear. All right, so I'll cd into root. If I list, I see my root flag, so I can cut root.txt. All right, so I have my root flag, and this should be it for the machine. Thank you so much for watching.